Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, April 15th, 2024, and this is a regular meeting of the Moscow City Council. Haley.
Hello, please stand if you're able to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance before we begin our meeting. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you all very much for that. Tonight, we have two proclamations to lead off the meeting. First proclamation is for Arbor Day, and it reads, whereas in 1872, Julius Sterling Morton, who had become Secretary of Agriculture under President Grover Cleveland, proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees. And whereas the resulting holiday, Arbor Day, was first observed in that state with the planting of more than 1 million trees, and whereas Arbor Day is now recognized throughout the nation and the world, reminding us that one person's initiative can make a lasting and meaningful difference. And whereas the City of Moscow and the Moscow Tree Commission are committed to a community forestry program that supports a safe, healthy, and attractive urban forest, and whereas trees are renewable resources that yield fruit and nuts for food and profit, wood for construction, fuel for warmth, paper products, and a wide variety of other goods and materials, and whereas, when properly selected, planted in the right places, and tended appropriately, trees increase property values, add beauty, enhance economic vitality of the business district, cut heating and cooling costs, and provide buffers from traffic. And whereas trees intercept stormwater, reduce runoff and erosion, clean the air and water, produce oxygen, slow climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide, promote pollinators, provide habitat for wildlife, and moderate air temperatures. And whereas a healthy urban forest can bring a sense of vibrancy or respite, adventure or calm, escape or contentment, and connection to wild nature amidst asphalt and concrete. And whereas Arbor Day reminds us of the timeless observation by its founder, J. Sterling Morton, that each generation takes the earth as trustees. And whereas to celebrate Arbor Day in the City of Moscow, the City of Moscow and the Moscow Tree Commission have partnered with West Park Elementary School to plant 3 Royal Raindrop crabapple and 3 autumn gold ginkgo trees in Gormley Park on Friday, April 26, 2024 from 12:15 to 1 p.m. Now, therefore, I, Art Betke, Mayor of the City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the City of Moscow, and I urge all citizens to support the planting of trees to promote the well-being of this and future generations. So, do we have a recipient? David Schott.
Hooray!
David Schott, for those who don't know, is our head of the Moscow Parks. So.
Congratulations. Well
done. Say trees.
Oh, but
Boo, yeah.
Well, thank you, Mayor Betke, members of City Council. I'd just like to take this opportunity to invite council and members of the public to Arbor Day on Friday, April 26th, again at Gormley Park. We'll be meeting at the Gormley Park Shelter at 12:15 for the ceremony, and then we'll move over to the south side of the park near Field 2 to do the planting at 1 o'clock, along with West Park Elementary students that are kindergarten students, 3 classes that'll show off their artwork and help us plant the 6 trees. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Our second proclamation is an Earth Day proclamation. Whereas April 22nd marks the 54th anniversary of Earth Day, a date to remember our connection to the environment, our reliance on the environment, and the need for environmental stewardship and activism. And whereas all people, regardless of race, gender, income, or geography, have the right to a healthy and sustainable environment for themselves and future generations. And whereas the people of Earth face many environmental challenges, including climate change, loss of biodiversity, pollution, deforestation, and food and water insecurity that affect us all. And whereas those who are most vulnerable, such as the elderly, children, and lower income communities, are most often those who bear the greatest burden from these environmental challenges. And whereas the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, Sixth Assessment Report recently highlighted the urgent need for immediate action to address the growing threat of climate change, and whereas there are multiple feasible and effective options to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to human-caused climate change, and whereas the City of Moscow recognizes the impacts of climate change upon our citizens and the importance of taking action on climate change, and whereas the City of Moscow has adopted a climate action plan to take positive steps in addressing and preparing for climate challenges, and whereas Earth Day is recognized as the planet's largest civic event, and whereas it serves as an annual reminder of the continual need for environmental stewardship, awareness, and commitment to sustainability, and whereas it is vital to come together and cooperate on how to achieve and defend environmental stewardship, now therefore I, Art Betke, Mayor of the City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2024 as Earth Day in the City of Moscow, a special day to remember our Earth, a day dedicated to increasing environmental awareness, and to encourage action to preserve a healthy and sustainable environment and our community's quality of life into the future. So, Kelly, are you the recipient?
Is there anyone from Earth here to accept the award?
I'm on a roll. They're all bad. They're all bad.
They're all coming.
Yeah.
We've been around dads too much, honestly.
What's that?
We've been around dads.
I know.
She had to turn up with the high school students in here today.
Yeah, I feel like I had a couple good ones with the high schoolers. They didn't laugh though, but I shouldn't. It's true. It's true.
That's
Okay.
it.
Oh, heck
I
no.
would we're on a roll.
How many more
Whereas, I
whereases?
shall now continue. It's my favorite thing is whereas there were actually 21 of them in that pair of renditions. So next up, we come to the consent agenda, and the consent agenda consists of items that have been previously reviewed by either the Public Works and Finance or the administrative committees, and consist of items that are either routine or non-controversial. Any one of the consent agenda items can be pulled by any member of the City Council for separate consideration.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add one thing. I don't want to pull anything from the agenda, but I do want to encourage our very full audience to, if they're willing, to go back and view some of the discussion from the April 8th meeting for the Public Works and Finance, because item J, the paramedic agreement, is really important. And it signifies some changes to how we do our well, there's it's a long runway, but it was a really good discussion. So I don't need it off the agenda. I just, for the sake of time, I'm happy to vote as presented and keep it on consent.
Okay, you can start.
Aye.
Drew?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda is passed. Next up on the regular agenda, we have staff recognition. Bill?
Thank you, Your Honor. As the council's aware, at the council's February 19th meeting, Chief James Fry announced his intent to retire from the City of Moscow Police Department effective on April 30th of this year. After that announcement, Chief Fry made a bit of a hasty exit without providing the mayor and the council the opportunity to publicly thank him for his service to the community. So that's something that I'm hoping to rectify tonight. Just to recap a little bit of James' service to the community, James started his public service to the City of Moscow as a reserve officer with the Moscow Police Department in 1993. About 2 years later, in June of 95, James was hired as a patrol officer within the department. During his 29 years of service with the Moscow Police Department, Chief Fry has held the ranks of patrol officer, patrol corporal, patrol detective sergeant, services and detectives unit lieutenant, campus division captain, and he has served the city 8 years as chief of police. In 2016, James was appointed by the governor to serve on the Idaho School Safety and Security Board. In 2018, he was appointed by the governor to the Idaho Police Officer Standards and Training Council. And in 2019, James was appointed by the governor also to the Idaho Opioid and Substance Use Disorder Advisory Group. During his service to the city, James has faced many challenging situations, ranging from megaload protests
Oh, yeah.
to the challenges of dealing with the pandemic, and to as well as the tragic homicides that occurred in the community in November 13th of 2022. Over the last 2 years, it's been my pleasure to work alongside James and the staff of the Musco Police Department. I want to personally thank him for his years of service to the community. Wish him the best in his retirement. We will have a gift we'll present at his upcoming retirement party, but I wanted to have this opportunity for the council and the mayor to address him and thank him for his service as well. So I did ask him to attend this evening. So with that, I'd ask James to come up.
James, come on up. So yes, I wanted to reinforce what Bill said. And for when you were appointed, I was here on city council doing some of the appointing of you 8 years ago. And in those 8 years, you've done such a great job. And I, for one, have been vastly relieved and appreciative of having you as police chief through thick and thin times, chats in your office, dealing with all manner of interesting bits. And so for me, I'll miss you and very much appreciated the service that you provided, not to me, but to the citizens of this whole community. So I wanted to say those words now, and I'll probably reiterate them come the festivities and cake cutting that goes on at a retirement ceremony. And I invite other members of council to chime in as well.
I'd very much like to chime in. Chief Fry, I think we got to know each other when we were on the Human Rights Commission together. And I will say I was very much impressed with the way you could kind of bite your tongue sometimes when we were trying to propose some crazy things. You were just like, I don't know that we can do that. Calm, cool, and collected. And I also, there were a couple times I remember I was on a Zoom call in conferences when I was working at WSU. I was actually attending a conference and I had someone call me that had some issues they were really worried about out at the mall. And I called you right up and you sent people right over, and it was really weird to be dealing with the two things at once. I thought, man, you have to do this all the time. 14 different things going on. I'm excited for your retirement party just because I know it's going to be fun. I'm sad, but I'm really happy for you and I'm happy for your family. And you've been a pleasure to work with. I think you've served our community so well, and I'm really, truly grateful for that. And grateful that I never once felt weird saying, just go talk to the chief. Go talk to the police, because you ran the department like anyone could talk to your group. And it showed. I had lots of people calling for anything. And I appreciate all that you've done. And I appreciate that I call you a friend.
So, Chief, we've only really known each other in this capacity for a couple of months, but serving with you on the Human Rights Commission has been a pleasure the last couple of months. And as a member of the community for over a decade, I'm just grateful for your leadership, your stewardship, especially through the more difficult times. So thank you very much for what you've done for this community.
Likewise, I think everything is on point. It's being said, Chief. I think one thing it's telling is you always talk about your favorite quote, the man in the arena. That's how you've led the department. And I think the encouraging thing is you've set up a group and that's able to lead without you there. And I think that speaks a lot to your leadership. And so although you're going to be missed, what you set up, the team that you set up, and all the things you worked hard for is because you've done that through leadership. So thank you.
Well, Chief, I've got a nephew who wants to be a cop, and I can only hope he is as enthusiastic and kind and approachable as you are. And he's only 4, so we'll see. There might be a garbage man in there at some point, some other things. But yeah, as a townie, I have a lot of memories, and I've never felt unsafe in Moscow. And I think I know it's a team effort. I think people should always come first in public policy. And I think you embody that by how you lead your team and encourage your team. And that means a lot. And I will keep it short because I'm sure you'll have lots of remarks. And I know going into public service isn't about receiving public praise in front of your peers, but we're gonna miss you. I'm really, really grateful that I got to serve with you and work with you. And we are lucky to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Anything else from over on the staff side? Looking mostly at our city attorney, who probably worked more.
Oh, gosh, I've got a lot of great things to say about James. I'll keep it short because I too plan on making some comments at his retirement. But one of the things I remember James is doing attendance court with him. And so it struck me that even some of this, what would appear as some of the smaller tasks were very important, and trying to help kids, there's something more than them just not attending school. There's underlying issues and concerns. And I recall how important that was to him, and how he wanted to make sure that the kids in the attendance court saw that they mattered. And I recall him and I actually attending a performance of one of the kids whose parents weren't able to be there. And it was important to him and to me to be there. But that's something that definitely speaks well of his character, and shows the type of leadership that there's no task too small. And I think he's really led well and leads by example, and definitely going to miss working with him. Was not expecting to say anything there.
You're welcome.
But he'll definitely be missed.
And so thanks again, James. And we get to the really good stuff at your retirement. So this is the more serious and heartfelt stuff. We're saving the other for when we get to the retirement
Well, I
part.
appreciate it. I did make a very slick exit the first time, and I got ordered to be here the second time, or you probably wouldn't see me here. But I do think it's been an honor for me to lead and to be a part of this community and to get to serve. So I thank you all, and I thank all of you for being the community members that you are, and for trusting us to come in your time of need. And it's one of the greatest things we get to do as officers. And I tell our young officers all the time, it's an honor to get to help people in their toughest times. So we should never forget that. And even as citizens, and as it's not just police officers, but thank you for everything. It's been a great career, and we'll see what the future holds, but it might be time. So thank you all.
Thanks, Chief. Bye, Chief.
Good stuff. Okay, next up is mayoral appointments, and I have one appointment tonight, Jonathan Hookel for the Human Rights Commission, expiring 12/31/25.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Jonathan Hickel for the Human Rights Commission.
Second. Oh, Drew can have it. Drew can have it, Lori.
Okay, second by Drew. Okay, start. Haley,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Bryce. Aye. Okay, Jonathan is back there, but he declines to speak this evening, but, maybe not. Oh, good.
I would just say one thing, just because I heard my name said twice and it was said wrong twice.
Oh.
It's a very weird name, so it's Hukel with a long U,
Oh.
but those were admirable attempts.
Thank you. Welcome to the city commission. Thank you for your service. Okay. Well, actually, I should empathize given strange last names, because nobody ever gets mine right either. Okay, next up, we have public comment in the mayor's response period. And the way this works is for the next 15 minutes, divvied up into 3-minute increments, we invite the public to come up to the podium, provide us with your name, your address, and in 3 minutes flat, provide us information on any topic, as long as it's not on tonight's agenda, nor pending before the Board of Adjustment or Planning and Zoning Commission. So let's roll.
This won't take 3 minutes. My name's John Kimberling. I live at 1923 East Street, and I'm here tonight in my role as the president of the Officer Newbell Kids Safety Fairness. A little early, but as you know, first Saturday in June every year. This will be our 18th event, and just any opportunity to get the word out, we want to do that. Were it not for COVID, this would be our 20th year of doing this event. If you've ever been there, you know the energy, the excitement, the great time the kids have. And the city has been such a great leader, partner in that from day one. We have over 600 bike helmets in storage ready to give out. The Life Flight helicopter is going to be there. The kids love to climb through that. We'll be tuning up the kids' bikes. There will be car seat safety checks, and I could go on and on and on. But it's from 10 to 2 at the East Side Marketplace. I might sneak back in a little closer to June 1st and give you another reminder about that. But I did want to thank the city for everything you do for that great event. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Who else?
My name's Heidi Hawley, and I reside at 1079 Flanagan Creek Road, Viola, Idaho, with my family. I serve as the Moscow Baseball Cal Ripken VP. First and foremost, I would like to thank all of the amazing community members that showed up tonight. I would also like to extend a special thanks to Drew Davis, who was the only Moscow City Council person who showed up at Moscow Baseball Association's opening day. I am curious as to where the rest of you were. If it would have been the Farmers Market, Renaissance Fair, or the Art Walk, you would have been present and even maybe hosting a table. But apparently being present and seen by over 300 plus families that spent their day at the ballpark was not a priority for the City Council. For those not aware of why I'm here, let me shed some light. On Saturday, April 13th, we hosted the biggest event of our season. It was opening day for Cal Ripken and the Moscow High School alumni game. There were over 20 teams at the Joseph Street ballparks. Adults and kids ages 7 to 55 were actively playing baseball. Over 15 games and an entire day of wholesome family fun. We had families from Coeur d'Alene to Cul-de-sac in attendance. All of this was canceled at 2:30 p.m. on Friday, April 12th, via a phone call and email from the city. When asked for reasoning, I was informed that there was too much moisture. No conversation was allowed to be had, no meeting at the fields, no problem solving, no solution was addressed. Until a collective effort by the Moscow Baseball Association showed up in troves. We were represented at City Hall, in the mayor's office, at the HERC, at the ballpark, and multiple people called and emailed. When asked about why the decision was made, my name was thrown under the bus because no one would take ownership for the decision. If you plan to make a decision that affects an entire community of people, teams from all over the Palouse, and over 300 kids, then you better be prepared to own that decision. Passing the blame, turning me into a scapegoat, and failing to validate your decision with concrete reasoning is unacceptable. Why is the city's prerogative to live in a cancel culture, to keep kids at home in front of screens instead of outside engaging in healthy activity? And why do we continue as a city to push commerce away from our local businesses by canceling events at the ballpark every chance we get? Why are we not investing our resources into making sure these events can happen at all costs? Many family visited businesses, stores, and restaurants alike while in town for opening day. It was a beautiful day for baseball, and to think the city almost made it impossible for all of us. The fields at Joseph are not just to look pretty. They're supposed to be played on, used by our community, enjoyed by taxpayers. Stop keeping us away. Assessments for Cal Ripken, fields closed. Moscow High School games moved to other communities or canceled, fields closed. Countless practices canceled, fields closed. An entire opening day canceled, fields closed. When is it going to change? Let's be solution-minded in our approach and stop taking the easy way out by canceling everything and keeping our kids from participating in athletics. Work to find a solution and help and let the community help. I'd like to request a special meeting to address our concerns, allow our voices to be heard, and to rectify the situation. We cannot continue down this path. It's not fair to the community, these kids, our taxpayers, and countless organizations that are investing so much into youth athletics. I do thank you for your time, and I truly hope that we can see some movement towards a positive resolution moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. To answer your question, no one on city council that I know of was actually invited to the event. 2, I was out of town in Montana, which puts me out of range of commuting in for it. 3, we are looking into the situation and looking into solutions to rectify it and try to mitigate the impacts of bad weather on the condition of the fields in the future. Who else?
Hi, my name is Amber Anderson. I live at 807 North Meadow Street. I was the Latah County Cal Ripken VP from 2014 to 2020. I was a very active member in the campaign committee for the bond to build the Moscow School District community playfields. I organized many tournaments on the playfields during those 8 years, even receiving a tourism reward from the Chamber of Commerce for my efforts. I have 2 sons, the younger of which is a senior on the Bears team. They both grew up playing baseball here and participated in Parks and Rec, Cal Ripken, school baseball, American Legion, and travel ball. I'm also a 26-year resident of Moscow and a taxpayer and advocate for the youth of our community. Since the playfields were built, it's been a constant struggle with the city to get them to do extra necessary work to make the fields playable when faced with weather difficulties. The city cites a lack of resources. However, since the fields have been open, the request to allow our high school players, coaches, knowledgeable volunteers, and even MSD workers to work the fields has been denied. Why is it that all the communities around us are able to get their fields prepped and ready for games after some rain, but Moscow isn't even able to push the water off the home plate in the morning to give the kids a chance to play? Our kids, coaches, and athletics administrators are capable of and willing to take care of the fields, but the city of Moscow won't allow it. Why? This Saturday, the city tried to shut down Cal Ripken opening day games. Everyone was completely confused. The forecast called for a gorgeous day, nearly reaching 70 degrees. Last Tuesday, the high school baseball team had a doubleheader scheduled against Lakeland. The city decided that our field was not playable because it had rained the night before. The rain was not substantial and had quit before 6 a.m. Had the proper steps been taken, the field could have been worked and playable by the 2 o'clock game time, especially with the extra 4 to 5 workers that were offered by the high school activities director. This offer was denied. Why? Instead, he was able to move the game to Clarkson's Field of Dreams, who also received the same amount of rain we did. There was one field worker, and he was thrilled to get the field ready for the 2 teams. The logistics of pulling this off has affected many people and families and incurred extra costs to the school districts unnecessarily. 2 years ago, I wrote an email to the Moscow City Supervisor about this identical situation. He promised he'd look into it and be in touch. I never heard another word, and nothing has changed. It's disheartening that our boys are forced to play their home games at other communities' fields when we could play here. It's embarrassing that other communities with lesser facilities can make games happen, and we aren't, and we are made fun of because of it. A matter of pride? Absolutely. This is tragic that our student athletes are missing the opportunity to learn skills and develop pride and ownership for their home field. It's exhausting to keep fighting the stronghold the city has on our valuable resource. It's frustrating that they have no apparent good reason to turn down volunteer help from people that have years of experience prepping baseball fields and softball fields, even more than some of our workers. It's extremely inconvenient and costly to have to rearrange and or schedule games, find resources, notify hundreds of people, and force families to make last-minute arrangements so they can watch the games. Please allow the coaches and players to do the work if the city does not have the resources. Canceling events and blaming it on inclement weather because of unwillingness to put forth the extra effort to make the fields playable is unacceptable. A solution is way overdue.
I'm Eric Kiblin, 1019 Union Road, Moscow. This is Casey, who's also one of the softball players. I'm a Moscow High School softball coach. Also, I've been a Cal Ripken volunteer for several years. And I want to voice the same frustrations as Heidi and Amber. I've been dealing with these field conditions for several years. And like Amber said, we always get promised change every single year, although nothing's happened. There are volunteers more than willing to help. And I've been told no on several different occasions. Friday, I showed up at 3:30 for practice. There was not a field closed sign anywhere to be found. I'd read the email from Heidi saying the fields were closed. I refused to leave because there wasn't a sign. Greg and Tyler Ochoa showed up with no explanation. The girls, Casey and her teammates, they raked the field for 20 minutes on Friday afternoon. The field was ready to play. For them to cancel that, the festivities of Saturdays at 2:30 on Friday is absolutely ridiculous. Raking the fields is part of the game. The players need to take ownership in our fields. The coaches, the volunteer parents are more than willing to do whatever we can do to help. These fields also need attention. I mean, these fields, Joseph Street Complex is not very old. It's becoming a liability and a safety hazard. City of Moscow is going to get sued. There's holes in the cages. There's L screens with no netting on them. There's not enough screens in the facilities. You guys want to host these state tournaments. You guys get about a quarter inch of rain. You're not going to be able to host these tournaments. Almost all of our competitors in the areas, they have tarps for the fields. That's been one of my, look at solutions. Well, solutions are volunteer help from parents and coaches. Tarps, I've been begging for a tarp for 2 years. A tarp is $2,500. The other issue is Friday afternoon, the city workers are gone. Nobody touches the field till Monday morning. There's a lot of times that you can get, volunteers to go work on Sunday night, get some air under the field, let the fields dry out a little bit. By Monday morning, they're ready to be worked up again and they're playable on Monday. I've been canceled practice. I don't know how many times this year. Last week, I was canceled 2 or 3 days last week. 2 of those days were playable, but it was a field close with no explanation. I think there's been a lack of leadership with the Moscow Parks and Rec, and there's also been no accountability. Every time I talk to somebody within the Parks and Rec, they want to deflect and blame somebody else within the city. Nobody wants to take ownership. So, nothing's been able to get done. I think the leaders within Parks and Rec, I think there needs to be a change in leadership. This has been going on for several years, and until somebody steps up and decides to do what's in the best interest of our kids, nothing's going to change. Moscow needs to do better, make sports a priority. Heidi and her staff, they had a wonderful event on Saturday, and for that to be canceled, she was a lot nicer than I would have been about it. So let's step up and make a change and do better for our kids.
Okay, thank you. No applause, people. It's like a court. You got to keep it down. We got time for one more person for public testimony, if anybody else would like to step up.
Evening. My name is Christina Spooner at 2109 Cambridge Court. Not going to be as eloquent, going off the cuff. My kids are just getting started in sports, and it was hard getting that call and then trying to find a new spot to practice. And I don't want this for my kids' future. It's frustrating, very frustrating. And the amazing work that our Cal Ripken vice president put in to try and adjust everything and then get it back and adjust again. It's unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. And I hope that I can help and assist so that my kids don't have to go through that in the future.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd like to assure everybody that in light of the testimony, we're looking into solutions. We're looking into improvements. There's always room for improvement. And we'll get some changes implemented that I hope will be satisfactory to everyone and allow for enhanced playing. So, public testimony is done. Moving on is the Mayor's Earth Day Awards, and we have several awards here, partly in celebration of Earth Day and Arbor Day. And anybody can stick around for these awards because they're also important. But I'll be doing this from the podium myself because I've got quite a sheaf of things. Okay, there's a good many categories. Earth Day Awards come up once a year in celebration of Earth Day and our environment. And these awards go to people who've actively contributed to both Earth Day and to the general environment in which we live. So first up is the individual award for Samantha Lewis. She was nominated for her efforts to lead her community in picking up litter, reducing waste, and advocating for sustainable action. A few examples that were provided by her nominator include making an effort to collect, haul out, and recycle trash when she's visiting places or events that do not have recycling. She recycles, in fact, her old running shoes. So, which makes me wonder if some of her shoes appeared as some of our overlay on the streets as part of the rubber mix that goes into those. She practices and promotes plogging, which is picking up litter while jogging. Encourages and provides education to others on the importance of recycling, composts her own organic waste, and buys in bulk when possible. So, Samantha, come on up.
Jogging, I love it.
I might be able to jog that
I
way.
was gonna say I might actually
Yeah.
be able to, yeah,
Yeah.
that might help me
Maybe you and I
manage
should
my
vlog. Jog.
picking up litter while jogging. Picking litter, jogging. I'm on board.
We should try it.
Should be a club.
Yeah, we should have t-shirts.
I just want one of the grabby things then.
Vlogging.
Hi, everyone. This is actually my first time at a city council meeting, so this is very cool.
Welcome.
Yeah, I've been in Moscow for 7 years, so I feel bad that this is my first time, but a good excuse, I guess. Just want to thank Kathleen Colley for nominating me for this award. I feel like it's unnecessary. It's super appreciated, just because I feel like as a human being who cares about, I don't know, I want to be around, I want everyone to be around for a long time on this earth, and something that I feel like we should all be doing anyways. But super appreciated, and thank you. And I will say, as a trail runner, I spent a lot of time up on Moscow Mountain, and I think as a runner, like just being a steward of the earth is super important, because I get to experience all these beautiful landscapes. So
You're here.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a joint award shared. It's the Green Visionaries and Water Champions, going to Paul Kimmel and John Kimberling. Paul and John were nominated for their efforts in founding the Palouse Basin Water Summit. The Palouse Basin Water Summit has brought people from our area together to discuss our most important resource, water, and its conservation. And that's gone on for over 20 years now and is counting. Without their leadership, it wouldn't have become the staple event that it is today. And their efforts are reflected in progress in water conservation and planning, and in search of an alternative water source for both of our communities, Moscow Pullman and the larger Palouse Basin aquifer area, and have initiated enough impetus to begin looking to the federal government for some funding to assist us in developing an alternative water source, which is probably the most existential issue facing Moscow and Pullman. So, gentlemen, much appreciated. It is. Let's see who we got here. John Kimberling. And of course, Paul Kimmel. Thank you, John.
Hurrah.
Okay, which one of you elephant devils would like to say it?
That's not how we're deciding water issues, right? Yeah.
Thank you to the city. It's interesting, the history of this is that I used to have the honor in sitting in one of those chairs, and we had citizens coming forward expressing concerns about the water situation. And honestly, I didn't know a lot about it back then. We were going down about 1.3 feet per year, and now it's down to about 0.7 feet. So we're making progress, but Paul was serving, as he's always serving our community then, as county commissioner. And we just decided to go to Boise to an international water conference. And on the way back, decided we needed to do this. And if you've never been to one, every October, Paul finds some amazing speakers, and we got a long way to go, but we're going to get there. We're all going to keep working on this. So thank you again.
Nice.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It was over 20 years ago in this very room where we had the Idaho Water Resources Director, Carl Dreyer, at the time. There was a petition to declare a groundwater management area for the Palouse Basin. And the frustration among some of our residents was, people aren't paying attention to water. And so that really was, besides just John and I just said, we've got to do better, really was the impetus to get us talking, to get us more engaged, and not only understanding, but also acting. And I think with support of fabulous staff at both the city of Moscow as well as city of Pullman, we've come a long way and we'll continue to get there. So thank you.
Next up, we have Building Development, Schweitzer Engineering Laboratory, Printed Circuit Board Factory. I like saying printed circuit board better than PCB, which sounds like a toxic substance. So the Schweitzer Engineering Laboratory Printed Circuit Board Factory was designed and built to a high standard of environmental sustainability and is considered a leader in its industry as a result. A few examples were provided by the nominator. A typical PCB factory uses roughly 90,000 gallons of water a day. SEL's uses only 500 to 600 gallons a day. It uses induction heating technology that reduces the energy use by 94% over conventional methods. A state-of-the-art fume scrubber removes 99% of volatile organic compounds from the factory's exhaust, well in excess of EPA regulations. Materials recovery processes and partnerships divert much of the solid waste from the facility to either reuse or recycle rather than being landfilled. And I will say that they're very clever too about recapturing the gold that is etched off of the circuit boards and the other metallic compounds, copper and things like that. They got a very clever way of recycling using those metals so they don't need to be re-excavated. So who from Schweitzer would like to pop up?
John. John's going to come up. And Gretchen, too. Hooray. Paparazzi Gretchen.
Very well done. Thank you for that.
If you ever get the chance to tour, John's our go-to tour guide these days.
I saw him sitting out there. I was like, hey, he looks familiar. I've taken a tour with him,
Yeah.
and it was great. So, yeah.
Well, on behalf of SEL's employee owners, I appreciate the accepting of this on behalf of them. We definitely put in a lot of effort in the design of the factory, right? As the mayor alluded to, we put a lot of not only the water, but a lot of the materials that we use. And this is a first in the industry in terms of what we're doing. From the water recycling side, we are the first factory in the world to do an ultra pure water recycling system and have it meet the specifications of the system. And we've had a lot of interested folks coming to the factory wanting to learn more as well. And we're definitely teaching them on all the cool things that we've done. And again, we thank you for the award.
Thank you.
The next award is to City Department, the Community Development Department. The Community Development Department was nominated for the many efforts and actions to create more housing choice, densification, increase walkability, collect stormwater runoff, and to improve the quality of that stormwater runoff, as well as to enhance urban forestry. Do we have anybody from Community Development? Looking at you. So Cody is our head of community development and would love to say a word or two as well.
Are these notes notes for me?
Yeah.
No, just thank you. I actually rejoined Moscow here 2.5 years ago and inherited the community development group from Bill Belknap, who's sitting over there, and both in all his years and then moving forward, we continually are looking for ways to do things better, whether it be land use regulations, building codes, some of our engineering standards. So it's exciting, and I guess I accept this on Bill's behalf and the behalf of everybody in community development that works hard at this every day. So thank you.
Thanks, Cody.
On the behalf of city staff, we have Tammy Gray, and she was nominated for her work to support several environmental programs. She's responsible for the development and continued success of our Eco Driver program, which helps reduce fuel consumption by the city's automotive fleet. And that subsequently reduces greenhouse gas emissions. So she's done a fabulous job. I'm sure she could quote the statistics on the Eco Driver system. So, Tammy, where are you?
She is not here.
Would you like to say a few words on her behalf?
will, actually.
Oh, very good. Well,
Kelly for Tammy.
will be
I love
beautiful
her.
anyway. We've got artificial intelligence. We can paste it.
Oh.
Careful, princess.
Give me years.
Pretend.
Yeah.
So I'm accepting this today on behalf of Tammy. She wasn't able to be here today. She's out of town. But I do have to just let you know that she's very appreciative of the award. She actually called us when we sent her the notice. And she's like, is this a joke? So she really didn't think she was receiving this. So she's very appreciative of it, and I'll make sure she gets it.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, next up is one of my very favorite nonprofits, MAMBA, the Moscow Area Mountain Bike Association. And they were nominated for their efforts to build and maintain a network of non-motorized trails on Moscow Mountain. Specifically, they were nominated for the new Pinstamum Path and Love Connection trails that are above Idler's Rest. And they were installed last year in conjunction with the Palouse Land Trust and Trish Hartzell. And if you've not been out to Idler's Rest to hike those trails, I highly recommend that you do so because they're great. Also, Mamba is constructing and maintaining trails on city land on Moscow Mountain, which opens new terrain and connects with other trails up there. And that promotes fitness, utilization of our outdoor recreational lands, and generally takes good care and stewardship of the lands that are up on the mountain. So who's here from Mamba? I love that acronym, by the way.
Yeah. Can we do awards for best acronyms? There's some good ones. Well, and Tyler and his team did one that was like award for the person who keeps their water meter most clear, and it has like a mile long and it doesn't actually mean anything.
Thank you very much. The local trail network around here is a precious resource for the community, and it's really easy to take it for granted. So one of our missions is to not take it for granted and to work with the landowners and the community to be good stewards of our trail network and protect it. And you can go to mambatrails.org if you want to volunteer to help out or help out financially. Either way, it all helps. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think we'll be hearing a little bit more about Mamba here in a few minutes, so don't run off. For the university group, we're talking the University of Idaho Sustainability Group. The UI Sustainability Group was nominated for their work to help University of Idaho receive a gold certification through the Sustainability Tracking, Rating, and Assessment System, conveniently acronymed STARS. They're currently the only university in the state to have earned this level of recognition. Some other examples of their action include procuring $90,000 in a DEQ grant for a biodigester, earned B Campus USA recognition, earned Tree Campus and Higher Education recognition, launched Green Event, Green Office, and Green Lab certification programs to promote innovative, sustainable practices throughout the campus, and developed an interdisciplinary undergraduate sustainability certificate. Is there a U of I rep? Oh, excellent. And by the way, the number of syllables in some of those words, definitely higher education. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
It's like a diploma. Jump on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate this recognition, and we're really excited to find opportunities for partnership in the future. So thank you.
Hooray.
And lastly, we have a community project, which is the Harvest Park. The Harvest Park is intended as an edible forest park with food-bearing trees, shrubs, and other flora. The park will provide educational opportunities and be an example to the community of a stewardship of a public food forest. In 2021, 43 edible trees and shrubs, well, the products of the edible trees, not the edible trees, were planted by volunteers around the periphery of the park. Work continued in 2022 and 2023 with 85 volunteers planting pollinator-friendly plants in the dogleg portion of the park off to the east side. This is an ongoing effort with more planting events already scheduled for 2024. And I was going to say fruits, but fruits and nuts and other produce that result from the Harvest Park will be available for the public to come through and harvest on their own for their own non-commercial uses. So who we got from the Harvest Park?
Yay!
It's our very own Dave Schott again.
Thank you.
Here we go. Thank you. There it is.
Please do.
Mayor Betke, thank you so much. Members of council. So Mark Heinlein is the chair of the Harvest Park Subcommittee. He's also the vice chair of the Bee City USA Subcommittee and is a member of our Parks and Recreation Commission. The Bee City USA and the Harvest Park Subcommittee, the passion on those subcommittees is just outstanding. And it's really spearheaded by Mark through these volunteer projects, along with PCI and Liv Lampman, really getting the volunteers organized and taking those projects to the next level. So my hat's off to Mark and his passion for Harvest Park. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you very much. I didn't expect all that.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure to do it. Suited me well.
Excellent.
Gotten a lot out of it. Thank you.
And we'll be getting a lot out of it too when the trees finally grow up big enough. But anyway, thanks to everybody and the Earth Day Awards, worthy recipients all. And we appreciate all of the volunteer work that goes into it for the benefit of all of the citizens of our, not only our town, but our region. So good stuff.
Nice job.
There's a lot there. Should have put somebody in, oh, there we go. Okay.
We're leaving in droves.
Okay, moving right along, we get to go back and revisit the Mamba people, the Moscow Area Mountain Bike Association Projects Update, starring David Schott and Sandra Townsend. Or maybe just David Schott.
Nope, Sandra's here.
Who she is? Where?
Right there.
Thanks, Corey.
Thank you, Mayor Betke, members of council. Thank you for having us tonight. I'd like to welcome back Sandra Townsend with Moscow Area Mountain Bike Association. Sandra moved to Moscow in 2016 and enjoys adventures near and far in the Pacific Northwest. She loves biking and skiing on Moscow Mountain and sharing the experience with anybody who wants to join her. She could be found behind a giant cup of coffee, staring at maps at the University of Idaho's outdoor program when she's not outside with her family. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sandra.
Hooray.
Welcome, Sandra.
Okay. Mouse does work. Excellent. So I just wanted to give a brief update and more importantly, kind of reemphasize the importance of recreation in the Moscow community. Especially, I'll admit I'm partial to the biking aspect of it, but all non-motorized recreation, be it commuting or using it purely as recreation, fitness, et cetera. There's numerous benefits to our community. So just a brief update on the Powell project, just so that folks can see. This is Trail Forks, which is a free app for this area. We find Moscow right here. And then this line right here, this is kind of considered the Moscow Area Mountain Bike Association, Mamba Trails kind of area that we help kind of make sure is maintained and kept well. You'll notice that there is sections that are also owned by the city of Moscow over here, Phillips Farm, maintained by the county. There are 2 trails that will be coming up here. We have the Red Tail Hawk Loop, which is the most beginner-friendly trail in pretty much all of the Palouse, as far as I can tell. And then there'll actually be a secondary trail on a Bluebird Trail that'll be put into this area later this year as well. We've been super lucky to work with the city, the county, and the Friends of Phillips Farm is a huge collaboration there for that effort. But probably what most folks are interested in is going to be what I like to call kind of the Powell Project from that donation given back in the 40s that's been City of Moscow land. For those of you who are familiar a little bit about Moscow Mountain, you probably have heard of the Headwaters Trail. That's this loop right here in blue that goes around. That's actually 5 miles in total. So if we go out a little bit, you'll notice that there's a lot more to this mountain. Mambo actually has between 60 and 80 miles of trail that's on the mountain that we help maintain. I want to emphasize that no one is paid for any of the work that is done. There's not even a part-time employee. There's no executive director. It's truly a labor of love from the community. It has been since 1997, which is incredible. And personally, it's become a point of pride that every single one of those feet has been hand dug by a volunteer. And so later this summer, we're going to continue working on the area that the City of Moscow owns, which is this area right here, this corner, this area right here. It's actually a beautiful viewpoint right up here that we've been lucky to do. We'll actually have 4 trails as total. There's going to be 2 trails on the south side and the 2 trails that go on this north side. This southern side has already been logged out. We cut all the trees that we had to. That's going to be for that have been down in order to create the single trail on single track on that south side. And then hopefully this northern section here, when we go up the next couple of weekends, hopefully there's no snow up there. We'll find out. And we'll continue to log that out for any trees that are down over the new tread that we're hoping to put in. And in total, we're going to have about 2.5 miles of new trail that's going to connect these trails right in here. So just so that you know, we are putting an extension in for our grant that we got from the Idaho Department of Parks and Rec. They are very understanding that we cannot dig in the middle of February and that they give their grants in July. And so there's some logistics there. So we'll be putting that in. And we hope to be able to come back here and say, job mission accomplished next spring. And so we'll be working really hard this summer over that as well. I do want to kind of emphasize, though, not only this, just the importance of trails as a whole. And I know that there's definitely some strong feelings that happen a little bit earlier when it comes to recreation. I do want to emphasize the importance, though, of making sure that families and kids aren't just stuck inside looking at televisions. And this is one of the really unique ways that we get to do that. I will say that biking is one of the very few activities that is multi-generational. We will see families up there, 2-year-olds to grandmas there with their kids. It's one thing to be on a ball field and you can cheer your kids on. It's another really awesome thing to be able to actually interact with your child while you're on the trails and actually share the joy of biking. I'll admit, it's one of the few things that gets me giggling. Like, that's just fun. And be able to giggle with your mom, your dad, your grandma while you're on a bike, that's super special. Whether or not you have an e-bike, if you have a Strider and you have no gears and you're just pedaling along, like, that's really incredible and be able to do that. And this is an incredible resource to do that. I will say Moscow Mountain is not the easiest mountain for beginners, notoriously. And there's a real need for more beginner-friendly biking so that kids can stay in this area and continue to mountain bike. We do have the Palouse Youth Mountain Bike Composite Team, which is, sorry, it's a mouthful. I'm sure I got it wrong somewhere. They just had their first race of the season this past weekend up in Spokane. There's around 30 kids that compete for that, and they go as far as Gig Harbor to compete. And they're really, really good. This is their 4th season. And I'll be honest, part of the reason why they're really good is because they have Moscow Mountain that they can go on. So thank you for allowing for new trails to go out there. And then just as a whole, we do need more bike infrastructure. And I don't want to be the only person that's up here again asking for more money, for more infrastructure, for more support. But just to know that there are lots of folks who do use bikes for commuting, getting to their work, getting to groceries. I drop my child off at daycare on my bike. I get to school and be able to get to my job, and then be able to go out onto Moscow Mountain and going on Mountain View Trail, or Mountain View Road, which does not have, for those of you who've ever been out here, it's kind of scary. And I'll be honest, and I know that's not in the purview of the City of Moscow, but just knowing that people are going out there And you'll see them every single day out there. And so I just, once again, want to kind of put for the record that there is some need for infrastructure, and we would love to help out with that. There's a lot of money out there for that. And so we just want to make sure that everyone's on the same team and that we're kind of scheming together to make this a lot better for our community, mainly because I know a lot of people come here and communities like this have a bad rep of having people come in for 2 to 4 years and kind of leaving as college towns. I don't think Moscow is one of those places. I think we're really good at retaining, and I think recreation is one of those reasons. And I just want to continue to do that. So thank you for your time. If you have questions, I would love to answer them.
I have a couple questions. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Great. One, where do we go to find the trails? Like how to get to where you need to go? What's a good site? Is it a Mamba site? Is this-
Trailforks.com. That is the site that pretty much if you allow me here, I'm just going to zoom out here. So all of these, that's all on Trailforks. And that is the entire nation of all of these mountain bike trails everywhere. And so this is the site, and it's all, most of it is going to be volunteer built for a lot of this stuff. And so people are going out and they're loading their rides onto these areas. And then this is how we get all our volunteer data. And so everyone who's helping out with trail work, they can log their hours onto this site. And so I bet Trailforks could tell you how many people volunteered labor last year. And as you can see how many trails there are, I bet it's a ridiculously large number.
And then just one more question for you. If folks do want to get involved and volunteer, what's the best way to reach you all?
Yeah, and so we update our Facebook, we update our Instagram, Mamba Trails, and then just emailing us at info@bikemamba.org, and then going to mambatrails.org. And then I will put in a really quick pitch right here. I'm sure us, like every other nonprofit, will be partaking in Idaho Gives starting on the 29th. So if you want an excuse to give some money, we are going to be a part of that. So thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question. First, thanks for this, and thanks for always kind of renewing the passion for the trails up on Moscow Mountain. They're so good. I am curious, have you all encountered issues? Because like one thing that I love about Moscow Mountain is that it's like a multi-recreational space, right? Where you have mountain bikers, you have trail runners like Samantha earlier, you have hikers. Like, has there been, or do you foresee like issues just kind of with that mixed use trail system, or does it kind of self-manage itself?
Great question. And
Thanks.
probably one of the more hotly contested things in the nation.
Sure.
We are not to the point where we have to get to like on Mondays, it's only uphill access for runners. And on Tuesdays, you can go downhill. Like, I don't see us going to that real soon. And if you've been to any other area, Moscow Mountain is like a desert.
Yeah.
If you go out to Bellingham, people are just, you can't even park anywhere. And we're just super lucky. We've actually added 2 new trailheads pretty much. And we've been kind of working on that infrastructure. So we've been able to spread out that load really well. So that hasn't been an issue. And then we do talk with the Palouse Road Runners, who are kind of the representatives for most of the trail runners. And we were at their meetings. I was at their annual meeting, that kind of thing. So that's not been a real issue. And then we're trying to work together, especially if there is conflict. Ideally, we put on all our signs like, be nice, say hi.
Sure.
Like kind of like engage in more of that dialogue, just being friendly, honestly. It's not even necessarily the etiquette, because you never know if someone's like, I just don't know when I'm supposed to be yielding, that kind of like, just start a conversation, just be a friendly neighbor. That's kind of like the emphasis of all this. Like ultimately, again, we're here for community building, and that starts with a dialogue and conversation. If we can do that on the trail, like that's an incredible metaphor for life, right? But we're not to that point where we have to like really worry too much about that. And I consider ourselves super lucky with that.
And I haven't gotten that impression, but just as something to put on the radar. And
Yeah, and one of the things, and it is something that comes up every once in a while, and I'll be the first to admit every once in a while, I'm like, oh, that person had headphones on. They didn't see me coming. But it's pretty rare that that happens. And honestly, like, people go out to the mountains because they want to escape. They don't want to be around another
Absolutely.
person. So sometimes they're like, oh, I saw another human being. I didn't want to see anyone. I had a terrible day. So like I can sympathize with that. One of the bigger things is we are working with local first response, like search and rescue, that kind of thing, just to make it easier. If there is actual physical like contact that happens, make it really easy for our first responders to be able to get up on the mountain. The mountain's pretty notoriously hard, especially with gates and such, to be able to get up to kind of the more difficult locations. So making it a little bit easier. And I'll be honest, I mean, it can be a little bit hard to do that, but we've been really working with our landlords, especially Bennett Lumber has been incredibly supportive.
Great.
And working with the University Experimental Forest. With you all, we have 18 different landowners that we work with.
Wow.
So making sure that we're able to get access if necessary.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah.
There you go. Okay, cool. When you say you're logging the stuff out to clear initial paths for the trails and it's on city land, I'm trying to, where do you send the trees? Where do they go? I mean,
Oh,
is
so
it
we're
just,
not like
not felling
falling.
them? Yeah,
No,
okay.
it's literally like down trees. There are a couple of trees that are maybe like 3 inches
Yeah.
that'll never grow to an area, and we're
Gotcha.
just like, sorry, little
Love
buddy.
that. Well, and I figured that, yeah, and I mean, that'll, if they're.
But we're not
overcrowding-
talking like timberable kind of thing. So
Okay.
sorry if like
No,
log
no, no.
out, you're like, oh wow.
No, I'm
they're,
not.
They're selling for.
No,
Yeah, we are not.
And not worried at all about that. Honestly, it was more, to this day, it haunts me. Is it Heather, is it Heward? At U of I, the fire sciences person who, when we were like door knocking, yes, Sandra's neighbor, yeah. She was like, I'm having flashbacks to when we had the fire on Moscow Mountain, we lost a couple of homes. And I mean, we are one fire away from having really serious another fire away from having a lot of really serious consequences. And so I'm thinking in terms, I love that we have the trails. I am assuming that actually having more people out there is good in some ways, and also having some trails to, maybe not inherently create a fire line. I am not a fire ecologist in any sense, but I worry a lot because we also don't have jurisdiction because you're dealing with 18 different owners, right? Like, how do we make sure that Moscow Mountain is healthy and we're not stuck in a really dry year where everything goes up like a powder keg and we're, 100 years out from having any sort of growth and coverage.
Absolutely. And I'll speak to a couple of points because you bring up some really good ones. One, we do consider our trails informally to be fire breaks. Are they built up to that standard? I'll admit I am also not. I majored in adventure education. I'll be perfectly honest
Love
here.
that.
But we really do consider that to be an important part of the trails. And so we will brush out on either side. For those of you who don't know, a trail corridor is kind of defined as like 10 feet or so. And so we do try to actually make that kind of clear brush. One, because a mountain biker hates it when anything wet touches them when they're actually mountain biking, but also increases line of sight for safety. And then also that fire break. So you'll see us out there with our brush cutters, and we will be cutting back all of that brush. And that does help a lot with that. And honestly, like raking all of the pine cones and like all that, just to keep that kind of like idea of kind of that pseudo fire break. And I agree with you, having folks that are out there actually on the mountain. One, is there a potential of starting a fire? Possibly, but more likely they'll actually see that there is a fire and be able to call it in. So there is kind of like a pro and con there. And I like to think that folks are actually out there actually seeing what's happening and calling it in. And then third, I'll be perfectly honest here, and this is what no one likes to hear. Forests do have to burn.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that will happen at some point. What we can do as a whole, and I know Ivy works really hard at Idaho Firewise, is we want to make sure that we're mitigating the damage that actually happens. Because fire is a natural, healthy part of the ecosystem. We're not trying to suppress all of that, but we do want to make sure that folks that are up there living, recreating, they have a chance to be able to rebuild. And it's not an area that we have this huge amount of damage because we weren't able to take care of that. So being able to mitigate that, that is something that we definitely think about for sure.
Yeah, thank you for coming in and thanks for giving us an update and to just all the volunteers. Why one of the benefits for me in Moscow is I used to mountain bike a lot. Now I mountain bike with a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and so I'm not biking as hard anymore. But regardless, that ability that it's all by volunteers. And the passion that the volunteers have for the trails is they're just as good as anywhere else that you'll ride. And so for me, it's thank you for providing that benefit. It's great.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Thanks for all you guys do. It's a great utilization of a long neglected resource. I have friends in Portland who pop over here to ride Moscow Mountain because they think it's great. Of course, they're twisted individuals, but
They're
also right.
They fit right in.
And just
Yeah.
don't have them tell their friends in Portland.
Yeah. No, totally.
Don't tell your friends.
Sort of a hidden secret.
Yeah, it's still kind of a hidden secret.
And then, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't throw out an open invite. If any of you or anyone in the community over here wants a tour of the mountain, whether it be on bike, running, hiking, please let me know. We can find someone, if it's not me, to go up, kind of take a tour as well. We love to show it off. And I know for many years there were not signs. There are hundreds of signs on the mountain now to show you where you are. So thank you very much.
And there's maps. You sell maps
Thank
too.
you, Sandra.
Updated maps as
Yeah.
of a week ago. So they're
Are they hypersped?
thanks so much.
Okay, love it.
Thank you, Sandra.
Okay. Next up is Tyler Palmer with an update on the Climate Action Plan. Mr. Palmer.
Mayor, Council, very happy to be here. I have a brief 120-minute presentation prepared for
With 300 slides, right? I'm ready.
I really am excited to be here to present an update on the Climate Action Plan. Coordinating this with Earth Week, our plan is annually to be back and give the council an update on what we've been doing and how we're trending on our Climate Action Plan. As you'll recall, the Climate Action Plan was adopted by City Council in October of 2021. The overarching goals of the plan were to achieve net zero emissions for city operations by 2035 and achieve net zero emissions for the community by 2050. So those are the two main goals, with our desire to have an impact on improving human health, advancing equity, and building resiliency through climate action. So we go through a lot of work each year tracking the different components that contribute to the city's emissions of greenhouse gases. And so these are the numbers. As we move forward in tracking our progress on the Climate Action Plan, what you'll see is in even number years, we will be updating our internal numbers, and in odd number years, we'll be updating the community-wide numbers. And so starting in 2023, we will have an update of the community-wide inventory. So the 2023 numbers is what we'll be crunching now for our presentation next year, the updated. And so we have the 2022 numbers that we've crunched for the internal city operations that I'll be presenting to you today. So these are our benchmark results for 2022. We use ICLEI software for this. ICLEI is an international organization that focuses on sustainability and local government, and they have a robust software package that helps us with this tracking. One of the things that I would like to point out in these numbers, and we'll get in a little bit into some of the specifics, but this is the very first time that water and wastewater has represented less than 50% of the overall emissions for the city, which is really a great accomplishment, largely due to operational updates for efficiency, and then the city council's approval of replacing infrastructure like our booster stations and our lift stations with more efficient pump systems with variable frequency drives that allow for more efficient operation. And so since that is such a large percentage of our greenhouse gases, it's really important that we are able to find more efficient ways to do that. And then I would also like to point out that water conservation plays a role in that, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So this is the breakdown of our greenhouse gases by category. We really track the categories so that we know where our lowest hanging fruit is and where we can focus our efforts. There are certain things that are interesting as we dive into these numbers. For example, when you look at streetlights and traffic signals, between the 2016 inventory and 2018 inventory is when the LED streetlights came on. So we had the traffic signals went to the LED signals, which saved us a lot. One of the things we're really excited to see for our 2024 numbers is the vehicle fleet. We had a growing fleet due to a growing city, And so by the time we got the 2022 numbers in, we had begun our transition to the hybrid police vehicles, and also really implemented our alternate fuel transition plan. And so we anticipate the 2024 numbers will really start to see the impact of that transition. So that's just by category how the numbers break down. So our overall, as you can see in the water wastewater, actually went down despite, again, a growing population. Vehicle fleet, we continue our alternate fuel transition plan. As I mentioned, we are getting close. We have 2 more police units to transition to hybrids, and then we've completed the transition to hybrids. That's been a really great thing to see. You know, initially there was some trepidation on the part of some of the users, but happy to report that our last 2 purely internal combustion units hardly get used because there's a preference for the hybrid units. They operate better. They have better torque at lower end. They're more comfortable. They're not sitting there idling when they need to be stopped because the battery can operate everything they need to operate. It's been a better use. It's been better for the creature comforts of the user, which is great. It's kind of a win-win. One of the great things is we've had our Lightnings in the fleet for long enough now that we have been able to generate our preliminary return on investment numbers for the Lightnings. And so what we've got up here are the preliminary numbers, and these are actual experiential numbers with our Lightnings. And so you can see the fuel economy on our half-ton pickups. We're about 13 miles per gallon with our municipal uses. And so our fuel cost was $1,350 a year. The electric cost is about $200 per year. And, you know, these have really been great for our uses because, you know, a small compact city like Moscow is just ideal for electric vehicles. We have the ability to charge overnight, and then it's daytime use with generally short trips. And so they really work well in that regard. So our return on investment currently is 5 years, but I would like to point out that return on investment does not take into account the $7,500 rebate that we have applied for and will get for these units. And so when you put the $7,500 rebate in place, we're actually money ahead before we start.
And how long is our ROI for what we were getting, which was the Chevy 1500?
Well, the ROI is a comparative number. And so the return on investment is the difference between what the electric cost is versus what the internal combustion costs. We keep these units for 15 years. It's a 15-year rotation. And so for the last 10 years of the life of this vehicle, if we did not get a rebate.
Right.
And the other thing that I would like to point out that does not take into account is a diminished maintenance cost, because our maintenance costs are lower on the electric vehicles. We're not doing the routine oil changes and, you know, those sorts of maintenance costs items that we see. And so, you know, there's some uncertainty on the 15-year replacement plan. We don't know yet how long we'll be able to keep them, but we're pretty confident it'll be longer than 5 years. And so, and when you take the rebate into account, it's, as I said, we're money ahead before we even start. So those have been a great addition to the fleet, and we look forward, you know, each year what our alternate fuel transition plan dictates that we analyze the potential for changeover. And so we look at what actually makes sense. Currently, we're looking at mowers. That would be a really big one if we were able. That's the next really big challenge that we would love to get transitioned over. And the technology is getting better and better. And so really, we're at that point where we've got to have reliability. We're small enough and our budgets are small enough that we don't really have the opportunity to guinea pig too hard because we don't get to swing and miss. And so we've got to really vet things out and make sure that we can make them work. But we're really getting close there. And we've had several demos on mowers and we're looking forward to more. So that's been a really successful area for us and a place of focus. Water and wastewater, as I mentioned, we're really seeing success. First time that we've dipped between 50%. And a lot of that is just lower water use. When you take into account what the impact is of our water conservation programs, you know, it's cumulative, which is great when we change out those toilets, when we change out that irrigated turf. Those are cumulative impacts, and then our operational. So we've got 7.2 million gallons of water saved through our conservation programs, which equates out to 7.13 metric tons of carbon dioxide that we've avoided. Our wastewater treatment, that the water conservation directly translates to wastewater treatment because that's then water that's not going into the pipes and going to the water reclamation facility to be treated. And so that's 6 million gallons roughly that we've avoided there, which is another 5.5 metric tons of carbon dioxide. So that's been great. Those are really great areas where we know we need to save water. We know that we need to save it for a lot of reasons, but to have that greenhouse gas impact in addition to the water savings and working toward the stabilization of the aquifer, those are really great impacts. Streetlights. We've been, Avista has been great partners as we work on this. And so this is primarily led by Avista's changing out their streetlights to LED units. We've got almost all of the city-owned units switched over to LED at this point. We've got a few left, but we've got most of those changed out. And so we continue to see the decrease. So those trend lines are heading in really good directions for us. The Climate Action Working Group, so that, you know, the internal, as the council was aware when they passed the Climate Action Plan, our internal goals are what we have direct control over as city government. Those are the things that the council can make decisions on, being willing to fund a little bit more to buy the electric vehicle up front because we know we'll have an ROI and it makes sense. And, you know, making the investment in putting some extra conduit in so that we're solar ready, or, you know, those sorts of things that we can do. But the more difficult challenge, obviously, is tackling the community-wide goals, and how do we attack that? And that's something that our subcommittee of the Sustainable Environment Commission, the Climate Action Working Group, has really been looking at, and they have been working on a slate of potential programs and just vetting out the feasibility of those programs. And so they're looking at finding the most feasible programs, identifying funding mechanisms, and identifying potential partnerships. And so a lot of this is, you know, educational campaigns, the city acting as a clearinghouse for helping identify funds that may be available through the federal government, through nonprofits, et cetera, programs that people can participate in, and then also continuing to participate in our internal and support external education programs. And so we really look forward to really developing this over the course of the next year so that we can start to roll out more community-wide education programs. So with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions y'all may have.
My only question is, I'm trying to remember how often the subcommittee meets, because I think we've got the sustainable, the SEC, it's housed under the SEC, right? Or is this separate than our Sustainable Environment Commission?
It's housed under the Sustainable Environment Commission. They also meet monthly, though. We meet the first or second Monday of the month, so the week before SEC meets.
I mean this with love in my heart. How much of it ends up, is it therapy for everyone to meet monthly? Like, is it kind of cathartic? Because I'm thinking through how few tools we have as a city, and I am really excited to see that education and community dialogue is going to be the next big thing. I hope people aren't meeting and leaving feeling I'm hoping everyone's feeling really energized and excited about what's coming out of these meetings, instead of it feeling like there's nothing we can do. So my guess is that why we're having monthly meetings, is because we're feeling like we're generating good actionable things that we can work on.
So a lot of it too is it depends on how much we focus on any one thing. We've had guest presentations about certain topics, and so sometimes that's all that happens at the meetings, but we need to have those conversations to know what direction we can look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so these last two have actually been the most exciting, partially because we do have a list of things to look at and have a list of things to vet. And we've been going through and trying to actually find a way to kind of vet them out, like what's going to rise to the top here. And so we can kind of focus on those first and vet those out and really get those going.
Love it. Thank you.
For those who would be interested in seeing this, is that there availability of a copy of this on the city's website under the Public Works area someplace?
This presentation, Mayor? We can certainly make that available.
Because it contains all kinds of good stuff there, showing that we're headed in the right direction. We're trying to do what we can. I think posting up there would be beneficial.
We have a page on the city's website for climate action, and we'll be happy to post this presentation, this update there.
Please.
I have one question, if that's all right. Yeah. Did you have one? Did I interrupt?
No.
Okay. Tyler, as long as I've known you, you're always talking about the low-hanging fruit, and I keep thinking, is that gone? Right? So where are we at? Like, what's next, and what are we reaching for right now?
So, in water and wastewater, it was really great that it's been expensive. The booster stations, the lift station work that we've done, expensive but important, because that really was kind of low-hanging fruit in those, and we've seen that impact. Where we still have some really easy stuff is in the fleet. the transition plan will take time to work through because we can't just, get rid of all the internal combustion and just buy all new ones right now. And that would be a terrible thing to do because then when they all cycled, they'd all come up in the same cycle and it just would not work out that way. But we'll continue to work through that. The exciting thing is that at the clip that we're doing it, within that lifetime cycle, we will have cycled through and largely processed out the vehicles that we can process out. And we are seeing like a lot more alternatives coming available, even for things like you're starting to see prototypes for things like street sweepers and fire engines. It's not there yet for us, but it's getting to where perhaps not this cycle, but the next cycle when those come up, we could very viably be looking at things like that. So yeah, we still do internally, some of the other things that we still have some low hanging fruit, some building envelope stuff, doing building inventory. We've done a lot of the preliminary work on that, but there's more work that we can do. We're exploring grant programs for window replacements, for example, that can have a huge impact. So there's still low hanging fruit. There's still stuff we can do.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say thanks, Tyler, for always being enthusiastic about this stuff. It's always
appreciate it.
Good,
Thank you.
good presentation. So.
Yeah, and to echo Drew, appreciate the enthusiasm and the update. Are people still able to come to where your office is for some of those mechanisms by which to reduce water usage?
Yes, yeah, the free devices are still there at the water department. We advertise that and we'll put it out in the city newsletter and periodically on the city social media to try and really drum up participation. We've had a lot of success with in our conservation program with things like targeted mailings.
Nice.
For a long time, it was just kind of broadly broadcast, but our best year for toilet rebates, for example, was when we specifically targeted multifamily and hotels.
Yeah,
and just
nice.
sent out a mailer, a postcard to them saying, hey, take advantage of this. And we saw a really big spike in that. And so that's really been our effort, is to try and be very strategic with how we disseminate the information and get it out there. And then, just even things like our art walk. We have a lot of great success for people just stopping by our booths at Art Walk at the Public Works Fair and seeing our setup, and they really seem to enjoy interacting with those. And there's a lot of, I didn't know that was a thing. So that's been really successful as well. Kelly goes to things like the fairs and, sets up.
Has a really nifty article in last Saturday's daily newspaper.
That's something we're very excited about. Yeah, we've got a monthly article slot in the newspaper, which is part of that community outreach portion.
Awesome.
Where monthly we'll put out some sort of sustainability conservation type message.
Great. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks a bunch.
Great. Thank you all.
Yep. That brings us to our council reports. Sandra.
Thanks. I'm feeling much better this week because last week was last time we met, everything was going to happen. I had nothing to report. So I'm happy to have things to report right now. Moscow Volunteer Fire Department met. I timed it. It was a 7-minute meeting. It was blissful, right? They were so quick. They didn't have a whole lot they needed to get done, but they're just on track and working well together, which isn't something that's always said, right? And it was great and quick and efficient, and I'm in awe of that. I also had Moscow Arts Commission, and there's a lot going on. We talked about murals, the mural over Old Water Department. We had over 30 submissions, and some from Australia and New Zealand. I mean, truly all over the world come in. So there's a separate committee looking at those to kind of score out what to look at next, but it's exciting that that's going to take place. And then talking about the Art Walk finale in June, things are getting in place there, and can't control the weather, but other than that, things are looking really promising, and it should be another fun event. And then I'm looking forward to the meetings I have coming up this week. Oh, and I got to read to a kindergarten class at Lena Elementary, and got to pull out a pair of the old favorites of The Grumpy Monkey and Horton Hears a Who. So it was a great day.
Classics.
Bryce.
Yeah. So a couple things. First, we all went to Town and Gown, which was city council with the ASUI at the University of Idaho, and that was about a week and a half ago. And it was a great little evening of getting to chat with students and getting to kind of make that and build those connections a little bit better with the ASUI at the University of Idaho. As it relates to my commissions that I'm on, planning and zoning was canceled on the 10th. So that didn't happen. But the next one is next Wednesday, so looking forward to that. And then the Human Rights Commission meets tomorrow at 4. So, and I'm excited to welcome our new member. So that's exciting. Otherwise, just staying busy around town. To echo a little bit of what Sandra was saying about the Moscow Volunteer Fire Department, I attended one of the live burn sessions last week where both Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night they had live burn training out at a facility over by Safeway, and just seeing them in action and seeing them communicate with each other was really inspiring. And getting to chat with the chief while they were going through what they were going through was just really informative. And you know, for what we have in Moscow with the volunteer firefighters, it's a good thing, and I was happy to be able to see that and see kind of how they're working. So that was great. I also went to the Idaho Department of Transportation info session last week at the Best Western. That was held from 4:45 to 7. I was there for about an hour, and that info session was essentially getting a conversation going about a long-term potential project as it relates to a potential bypass on 95 and State Highway 8. So what I was really impressed with, though, just seeing so there were a lot of people there, a lot of people from the community learning about potential projects, also vocalizing their hesitations or potentially their excitement with however this project will unfold over the next couple of years. So decades. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was nice to be kind of part of those conversations and just seeing how the community really does have an interest in that decades long potential project. And then lastly, and I'm sure some other people went, but I did stroll up to East City Park because Hemp Fest was happening this weekend. Went up there with some friends, good live music, good vendors, and just good community energy. So I was happy to be there.
How was the impromptu stage?
It was actually, I meant to mention that. It held up great. And I really don't know how many people noticed that the actual awning was missing because it was covered and people were just, having a good time.
Love
so
it.
yeah, it looked pretty good. So yeah.
Good. Drew.
Yeah, so ASUI went to that, Town and Gown. Great event. Talked to student leadership over there at the arena, the basketball arena, which is good facility. Then on that day, also attended the U of I, City of Moscow, and county breakfast meeting that we had. Got to talk to leaders and kind of all those entities that are really important to make Moscow Moscow. Then Pathways Commission, we met. A couple things coming up, and I'll be talking about this as they get closer, but May 17th, Bike to Work Day. So bike, walk, do something. It'll be good. They're really excited about it. I'm excited about it. And then they're going to do their annual bike tour on June 11th.
Do you know what their
So-
route is this year?
Yeah, it's going to be over by Mountain View Park. They're going to kind of do some of those pathways,
Nice.
loop around. And one of the commission members has made a really great poster. So
Love
they're going to be coming, I believe, in May. David's giving me the nod, so I know I'm good. And to give a presentation. So they're doing a lot of good work and a lot of passion. Their Mura meets this week next week to discuss
6th and Jackson.
6th and Jackson. Yeah, we need to keep on talking, but I don't have anything to report on it, but we will be talking about it. And then, as we heard, I did wake up early on Saturday morning to go rake some baseball fields. So I was there and heard the passion, felt the passion. So, and have passion. So, it was great. And it turned out to be a good game of baseball. We lost both games, our team did, but we got a couple doubles, so I'll take it.
There you go.
So,
Better than Mariners.
yeah, better than
Are you?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the mourners. Yep. Haley?
Transportation Commission was canceled. And so this week I've got a couple of meetings, though it usually happens that my third week's my heavy meeting week, Smart Transit. And then I'm covering for Julia tomorrow at the Sustainable Environment Commission while she's off on her adventure. The mayor and I had a fun time today talking with some of the high school classes. Every year, the Moscow High School teachers and Drew and Bryce. I was just camped out with the mayor up here. they always reach out during their civics and municipal government unit and ask if they can come and visit and ask questions, which is super fun. So we'll do a little bit more of that tomorrow. And it's fun because the guy one of the current teachers was a student teacher when I was at school. So it's fun to continue to give him grief. And yep, Town and Gown was great. Ended up missing the Human Rights Commission, Human Rights 101 event that was that same night. I also missed the Repair Cafe on Sunday, which is one of my favorite things. My excuse for not being at the baseball event, which I was checking my email. We didn't get a formal invite, so I'm sorry to have missed it. But was we went rafting on the Grand Ronde and it was beautiful. And we snuck in a great early trip. We've got our AIC meeting this Wednesday, our local meeting for the Association of Idaho Counties. So we'll thank you because yeah. Punching above our weight class here, guys. Cities. So we'll hear the latest on what bills were passed this session and how they will impact us moving forward as cities. And I'll be at the chamber luncheon on Wednesday with some of our local District 6 legislators and hoping to catch some Jazz Fest stuff. So, which I'm really glad that it's in April. I'm very happy it's in April now and no longer February.
No blizzard.
Yeah, no more buses sliding
Don't
off.
jinx
Yeah,
us.
fair enough. It can still happen. Mr. Mayor, back to you.
Yep. As for me, I went to many of the same meetings as the colleagues up here, the regional breakfast over on campus and the Town Gown event, also over on campus. Also attended the Supreme Court hearing the utility billing case. I've never been to a Supreme Court argument before. It was very interesting, and we'll see where their deliberations take them. And also the Moscow High School government classes. You never quite know where some of the questions are going to come from.
Last year, we had a great conversation with someone who was a a manager at the pool, and she had so many questions. And this year it was dancing. We had a couple baseball players who had questions. I don't know what else we had this morning.
Shoveling snow.
Yeah, sidewalks.
Sidewalks were
We
big.
kind of blew everyone's mind when it was like you're responsible for the sidewalk directly in front of your property. It's great. It's always fun.
Have your parents fix them if they don't like.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
So anyway, it goes on and on. It's
Great.
always interesting trying to engage high school students early in the morning or right after lunch.
Yeah, tricky.
And wake up. So let's see, I've got another couple of them tomorrow morning and that's it. But for everybody here with a calendar, we have a quarterly meeting for elected officials out at the airport on the 2nd of May, 7:30 to 9 a.m. Meet out there for that, and you'll get a backstage tour of the new facility before TSA gets there and the security blanket comes down, and you'll never see those parts of the airport ever again. So May 2nd for the electeds, there will be tours for the public sometime in the week of May 7 to 10, also before the security blanket comes down. And first flights begin to occur, as near as we can tell, on the 22nd of May. That'll be the first use of the airport for passenger flights. So things are coming along well there. Anything from over there, Bill? Nothing. Okay.
I move we adjourn.
You need a second, you got one.
Good idea. We're adjourned. Thank you all.